Avery looked at Jerry and could not believe that the man she loved could speak such cruel and angry words. "After all, you must understand me," Jerry said. "You and I have very different levels. I have good prospects waiting for me, and you will remain in this God-forsaken town." "Jerry, did you wait until graduation night on purpose to hurt me? Why didn't you say anything before? Just yesterday we were dating. We were a couple. And today it's over? I want to know what happened." "I fell in love with someone else, and today she called and agreed to be with me," replied Jerry harshly. Then, with undisguised excitement, he began to tell Avery, frozen with resentment and pain, that he had finally met the most beautiful woman in the world. They met by chance in the park. It was the day Avery couldn't go with Jerry to the cinema. And now Jerry was going to move in with this beautiful Miranda in the city, where there were all possibilities for a normal life and prospects for career growth. "Jerry, I love you. We've been together for 4 years. Does she love you? Do you think she really needs you? I mean, she's rich and you're poor." "I love her, and you and I are breaking up. No offense, but you're too ordinary for me and boring. And let's just finish talking. I've made up my mind already." After these words, Avery could not stand it, gave Jerry a resounding slap, and ran away. Later her friend Tina found her crying on the shore of the lake. Tina sat down beside her, hugged Avery, and tried to calm her down. "No guy in the world is worth your tears. Believe me, your happiness is already looking for you and will find you soon. Let's go to school. We've waited so long for this graduation. And don't even look at Jerry anymore. Don't show him your weakness." After long persuasion, Avery still agreed to go back to the party, but when they came, Jerry was no longer there. The classmates said that some young woman had come to pick him up in an expensive car, and they drove away. Avery was in pain, but thanks to Tina's support she managed to pull herself together and not cry. 10 years passed. Tina got married, moved to a nearby city and was raising 2 children. Her husband had a small business, and they had enough to live a comfortable life. But she did not forget her old friend. Avery graduated from college and worked in her native little town as a kindergarten teacher. She still did not have a husband or children, but she did not complain to Tina about her fate, and only sometimes joked during phone conversations. "My happiness can't find me. Probably it's lost its way. You're not a good fortune teller, Tina." "Well, you should just leave your village and come here to the city. There are better jobs and no problems with grooms here." Avery laughed at first, but then she really moved to the city. She rented a small apartment and got a job as a kindergarten teacher. Now she and Tina saw each other frequently, and whenever she visited her, Avery willingly helped out her friend by walking in the park with her children. Sometimes at the playground, Avery met a young man walking with his son, about 5 years old. One day the child got too involved in play and almost fell down the rope ladder, but Avery grabbed him in time. His father was distracted by his phone at that moment and did not keep track of the child. Frightened, the man ran to his son and grabbed him in his arms, heartily thanking Avery for her help and introducing himself as Stanley. They talked for a short while, but soon the man thanked Avery again and left with his son, referring to his business. On the evening of the same day, when Avery returned with her children from an outing, Tina told her that today she had accidentally met Jerry at the car service. She noted with pleasure that it turned out that he had divorced his Miranda a long time ago, or rather, she herself kicked him out of the house, leaving him with nothing. And now Jerry, still handsome and daring, but penniless, worked in a car service. "Did he ask about me?" blushed Avery. "No, we hardly spoke," replied Tina, and looked at her friend. "Are you still not over him?" "No, it's long gone. It's just interesting to see what he's become." And then Tina had an idea for a way to teach Jerry a lesson. She lent Avery her most beautiful dress, and she, having done her hair in style and getting behind the wheel of Tina's expensive car, drove the next day to the car service where Jerry worked. When she saw her ex-boyfriend, Avery noted to herself that he really looked much better than before. But inside, Jerry had become even more insolent and cynical. When he saw Avery in all her glory, he looked at her appraisingly and said, "Wow, I did not expect to see you. And I see that you are doing great. You are even more beautiful. Nice dress, fancy car. What have you been thinking? That I'd stay in the country for the rest of my life? No way." "Well, yes. And since you happen to be here now too, why don't we meet and remember our youth? Old love is never forgotten," he said, grinning defiantly. Avery was indignant because he didn't even ask if she was free. Throwing him a couple of caustic remarks, she caused only another smirk on his face. Tears came to her eyes from anger and resentment. She no longer understood why she had come here and what she expected. Could it be that he would throw himself at her feet and beg for forgiveness? He clearly had no intention of apologizing and seemed certain that she had come especially to see him. "So how about a date?" Jerry raised a beautifully arched eyebrow questioningly. "You didn't come to see me for nothing. Your car is working like clockwork. No problems with it. I can tell you that right away. And I saw Tina the other day. It seems that she told you about me. By the way, isn't that her car?" "I didn't come to see you," blurted out Avery, realizing that she was being silly. "Who else could it be?" Jerry laughed smugly. And then Avery heard someone call out to her. She turned around and saw Stanley. "Avery, how glad I am that you came to my car service. Is there something wrong with the car?" "No, Stanley. My friend asked me to show her car to a specialist." Stanley ordered Jerry to take care of the car immediately, and then he invited Avery into his office for coffee. The woman agreed with pleasure, and, after giving Jerry a contemptuous look, left with Stanley. In the office, over a cup of coffee, Stanley first of all asked her about her children, and learning she only helped her friend, he could not refrain and asked her if she was married. Avery said that she was not very lucky in relationships. Stanley also decided to be frank and told Avery his sad story. He met his wife immediately after the army. 6 months later, they got married and lived happily, with hope for a bright future. Stanley inherited 2 apartments from his aunt, one of which he sold and invested the money in the business. Business quickly picked up, and then the wife got pregnant. The pregnancy went hard, and after giving birth to their son, his wife died from a very rare complication. Stanley had been raising his son alone ever since. Avery's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to do something to help the man, but she did not know how. Seeing the impression his words made on Avery, Stanley gently squeezed her hand and whispered, "Avery, I'm glad I met you." Avery looked into Stanley's face and smiled. "Me too." 3 months later, Avery and Stanley were married. Instead of a lavish wedding, the 3 of them went to a ski resort where they had a wonderful honeymoon. And 9 months later, their friendly family had a wonderful baby girl, and their family became truly happy.